we're back. And now we're following it up with Irv Kershner's Eyes of Laura Mars.
So first of all, this is a Columbia Pictures home entertainment clamshell case, which I haven't seen in a very, very long time.
No, it's really unique.
It's one of the most beautiful, boxes of this sort, partly because the poster of Eyes of Laura Mars is such a beautiful poster, and they lean heavily into that graphic of the eyes. And plus, it's got the kind of that beautiful catalog branding that Columbia Pictures did at that time with the kind of blue stripes.
Well, here's the thing about it is I actually, of all the studios that had their own kind of brand, not that one, but what later RCA Columbia boxes became.
That kind of black and red.
So, but with the blue border around it and the RCA Columbia at the top. That's actually maybe my favorite of all the studio like logos set up for a video box. Even though like we talked about how great the Paramount ones are, but this is before they established that RCA Columbia thing where they were. I'm trying to remember the other white boxes we had of stuff like this, and none of them are coming to my mind right now.
None are coming to my mind either, but this one stands out. Yeah, this one really jumps out. Also, it has no tagline, so which is either classy or they're just going purely off of the title and that beautiful graphic at the beginning. So back of the box reads, Eyes of Laura Mars. Fashion photographer Laura Mars, Faye Dunaway, world-renowned for her erotic portraits of gossamer-gowned models in settings of urban violence, becomes a focal point for a series of bizarre murders. The victims are all people Laura has known. Each murder is witnessed, and that's in quotes, by Laura in her mind's eye, as if through the lens of her camera. These terrifying experiences bring Laura together with an intimate relationship with a homicide detective, John Neville, Tommy Lee Jones, who tries to unravel the events that have taken control of Laura's mind. Eyes of Laura Mars comes out in 1978.
What number is it on the box?
This is 8582, which comes late in the...
yes, but I think we had that for sure in the horror section. So that would be under the E's in horror. And as we were watching it, it was... Okay, not only is it passing the test of being an American giallo, truly could have been an Italian movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a giallo homage. No, it is practically a giallo. This exact movie, this exact screenplay could have been done in Italy with Umberto Lenzi directing it.
Yeah, I think one of the things it was so fun to watch was the way the fashion shoots were staged so realistically in the Helmut Newton photography and the idea of violence and the lens of violence. I mean, it's really... But it does feel, it's so stylish.
But I mean, but it is kind of fascinating when we're watching it. Nothing about the movie seems authentic, from the police investigation to the portrayal of the cop to even the portrayal of her level of celebrity. Especially not the gimmick of seeing through the killer's eyes, randomly whenever they kill. But the one thing that is absolutely authentic is the direction of the photo shoots. That are laid out. There's nothing fanciful about them. They're exactly realistic. I've been on David LaChapelle photo shoots, and they are just like what's presented in Eyes of Laura Mars.
Yeah, I would actually say that it's done almost intentionally. They present those photo shoots, which is the fabrication of non-reality from these visions that she's getting. They shoot them like verite style. It's like a real photo shoot that you're at. And it really feels that way. And because Helmut Newton not only shot all the photographs, but probably also was consulting.
Yeah, for the art direction.
What a photo shoot would be like.
Well, I kind of
and he shoots it in a kind of with long lenses, frequently from afar, as if we're watching like kind of reality. He's catching events. We're seeing deep shots where we see New York like running into the horizon.
But then also the way it captures a uniquely authentic but different high-class Manhattan than Dressed to Kill. This captures the disco Manhattan. And this movie has one of the best disco soundtracks of its era.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it does feel like this interesting mix of a giallo film where it's the John Carpenter influence and a John Peters production with the Barbra Streisand song.
Yeah.
So it's like you have this kind of big Hollywood feel about it with the movie stars and the Streisand music and the photography, but also it's got John Carpenter slasher, stalking slasher.
And then also, just to make the point of it, though, when I saw the movie, after the movie came out, I went and got the soundtrack album. Now, I liked the Barbra Streisand song, but I got it for the ha-ah-a-a, let's all chant. That's why I got the record. Your body, my body.
But I mean, the whole idea of, if Giallo in any way requires a descent into a dreamlike realm, that's the purpose of shooting those so verite style, is to kind of to contrast with how dreamlike the nightmare moments are.
Okay, well, I don't think we've described the storyline quite exactly well enough so far. So the idea is Laura Mars has become this ridiculously famous celebrity for doing these.
A name photographer, a name fashion photographer.
But apparently a household name.
Well, like you named David Chappelle. It would be at that level, probably.
Yeah, but she seems even more popular than that. Yeah. Right? Like she's been on the Tonight Show a bunch of times.
Annie Leibovitz or something.
Yeah, she seems more famous than all of those guys put together.
She's a photographer who has paparazzi photographers following her.
Yeah.
Well, she's reminding me.
She's as famous as Faye Dunaway in the movie.
And her work actually in Helmet Newton's work is reminding me a lot of Stephen Meisel, which he does a lot of, kind of outlandish, murder scene type stuff would be up his alley.
So she's a world famous celebrity photographer whose specialty is taking beautiful women and, creating an aspect of murder to them. And that's how she sells the products. And then it becomes clear later in the movie that she's just has these wild random images of murder and death, and then she redoes them as fashion layouts. She redoes them as these art pieces that include these little flashes in her head.
And the police have taken notice. Hey, these are really close to actual murder.
The real crime scene photos.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the real photo that happened at the Mayflower Hotel, and then here's your photo shoot photo.
Yeah. And explain to me why they look exactly the same.
Exactly. And then
because this wasn't published.
So this is going on, but then somebody in her circle is murdered. And when the murder in her circle happens, she actually is able to watch the murder. She sees through the POV of the killer during the murder.
They have a psychic connection of some kind.
Yes. And then it happens again. And then it happens again.
And they're killing her friends.
And they're killing off her friends.
Everyone in her circle.
And her entourage.
And it's been happening apparently for a long time, which is how she's, processing these images into her work, is that it's been coming to her in dreams.
We don't realize that until much later.
And it hasn't ever been much more than just like, these are dreams or these are images that come to me. Now it's gotten more and more intense, like as if whatever's causing it is getting closer to her.
Well, as if the killer realized, okay, I'm going to get caught. So
it's starting to happen while she's awake. She's having waking dreams.
Yeah. And it's disconcerting to her, aside from the fact that when she puts together what's going on, but it's also when she's seeing through the eyes of the killer, she can't see what's in front of her. She can only see the killer's eyes.
Blind otherwise.
The killer never stops to look in the mirror.
Which makes it really cool. In one of the better scenes in the movie is when the killer goes to attack her, and all of a sudden she sees through the killer's eyes, but she's seeing herself being chased.
Yeah.
And she's running blind.
Yeah. And
which brings to mind the strange shadows in an empty room. Blind girl scene.
Yeah. Well, there's, it's got some of the great Giallo tropes of the cast of characters, the suspects, whether it's Renee Auberjonois, her kind of...
I love Renee Auberjonois.
Auberjonois is like kind of a very flamboyant
the sketchy ex-husband, Raul Julia.
Well, there's enough great supporting roles in this. Enough great actors are coming in that you start wondering, it could be anybody, the killer. Yeah. You don't know who it is.
Everyone's is
and very much like Happy Birthday to Me, they all take turns looking guilty.
They all have a reason.
And you, the audience member, you think you've got to figure it out. You're like, oh no, it's going to be him. But at a certain point, like Michael Tucker with his Gabe Kaplan afro, you're like, well, maybe it's him because he's kind of on the sidelines. Yeah. Like they really do a good job. And there's a moment where to leave Renee, she's got the police tail. So to get off the scent of the police, to go to her crazy, ex-husband, where you're like, oh, he's the killer. They switch Renee Auberjonois dresses in drag, and she dresses like him. There's the double drag switch, and then he gets murdered in drag. This is
almost a kind of reverse dress to kill, like an inverted dress to kill, where he's the one in drag getting killed in the elevator.
Not to compare the two movies in quality wise, but like what's happening in Dress to Kill and what's happening in Eyes of Laura Mars could literally be happening 3 blocks away from each other. They are happening simultaneously 3 blocks away from each other. At any point, these lead characters could cross by each other.
Yeah,
Kate Miller could totally walk by Laura Mars.
Yeah.
Right. They would know each other.
They're at the same
And
party.
they don't even know each other. Yeah.
They're at the same party.
She'd be going to Laura
I'm surprised
Mars.
Kate Miller isn't at the opening, all right, of Eyes of Laura Mars.
No, it's interesting.
With her husband.
Yeah.
I remember liking Laura Mars better than I did when we watched it. And I even saw it fairly recently, like within the last 2 years. I watched it with my wife, Daniela, because I thought she'd get a kick out of it. And she did. She liked all the fashion stuff going on. She's a model.
She's a model. Like,
she is.
And that's the justification for wanting to see a movie where you're chased by a madman.
She liked all the disco and the fashion shoot. And it makes sense. All right. That's her world. The first half is not a Giallo homage. It is a legit Giallo. This is exactly the kind of screenplay you expect to come out of Tatanas or something. But then the John Peters part comes in, where Tommy Lee Jones, who plays the cop, and Laura Mars, who plays the photographer, are attracted to each other and they fall in love. And then right in the middle of the movie becomes a love story. Laura Mars throws her character completely out the window from that point on. It's just everything is about love and devotion, love and devotion, love and devotion. And Tommy Lee Jones seems to throw his character out the fucking window. All right. He's all about her than as about the case.
Well, one could say that he kind of fills the emptiness in her life of having like a real male protector.
I would agree with all that, except, I mean, her dialogue literally is reduced to, oh, I love you so much. Oh, I love you so much. I adore you. I can't live without you.
That moment feels rushed in the movie.
Yeah, and the other cops, the way they sort of like, yeah, it's a little weird. I guess Lieutenant's really getting in there. You know, they just
You
sort
mean
of
like Frank Adonis?
Frank Adonis. The beautifully named Frank Adonis.
Frank Adonis.
Yeah,
as Sal Volpe.
Yeah, they have to just
other
like
cop.
sort of make jokes
Only when
about
like
it.
the actor's name is actually more cliche than his character's cliche name.
Yeah, but they have to sort of make jokes about it and not act like it's weird that they're now a thing in the middle of this like murder investigation as people are getting knocked off.
Yeah.
But
they're like, hey, he's sleeping with the famous photographer. What about us?
So while all that is a complete crock, in a weird way, it proves as subterfuge when it actually turns back into a Giallo again, more of a Giallo than it's ever been before.
Yeah, because
when it comes to the wrap up.
Yes, it actually is the setup for something even so batshit crazy that even the Giallo films are like, wait a minute, this is more of a Rosso. This is even a Giallo. But there's one great scene. They do certain things that there's the murder that happens and everyone gets dragged into the police station. Renee Auberjonois.
No, that's a great sequence.
And then you see the models and they do the classic New York tracking shot across the faces of what would be prostitutes in a lockup.
Oh, yeah.
But they're all models. And
they're
like,
almost indistinguishable.
and they're
all dressed up like prostitutes.
Because it looks like a Versace shoot.
When you put them on the streets of Fifth Avenue with steam and a flipped over car, it's a fashion shoot. But you put them in the police station, the same people all look like, and they're acknowledging it. They're like, we look like hookers in here.
Yeah,
like
they actually had to give them a line so that we would know, that they weren't hookers.
But it's so great.
Look, the first 35 minutes of this movie is flawlessly directed. There's not a misstep in it, as far as I'm concerned. It holds that dream.
Yeah.
For about 35 minutes. And then the wonky plotting gets involved, and then the wonky but then, I don't know if it's good, but it's kind of great the way it comes back and for its final climax. Okay, so I'm going to ruin the end. I was almost wondering about maybe we shouldn't reveal this, but actually it's the thing about the movie that's worth talking about.
That's what makes it Giallo.
It's what makes it Giallo. This could be a Giallo trope, but it's also just a trope of wannabe thrillers where you have the boyfriend, fiance, husband character who's been completely straight and legit the entire movie. Through a crazy monologue, he has to reveal that now he is the killer. And it's usually accompanied by a me-so-crazy performance that the actor has not given up until now. And Tommy Lee Jones in this movie does my second favorite me-so-crazy monologue reveal for that type of character. My favorite is Paul Michael Glazier's me-so-crazy performance reveal in John Huston's Phobia, which could almost be a Giallo as well.
No, it's amazing because he's such a good actor, and then you're just like watching him have to stuff in the crazy in one scene.
Yeah. And then like it's
completely out of
with
nowhere.
A ridiculous backstory that would have made Ernesto Gastaldi proud.
Yeah.
With an absolutely crazy, ridiculous backstory.
And to be honest, as long as we're revealing everything...
A backstory so crazy, that's what reveals to Faye Dunaway he's the killer.
Yeah, yeah. But at the same time, I'm still kind of confused about the backstory, to be honest. Is he the father? Like, he's obviously has a schizophrenic personality. Is it the father that caused it, that has replaced him?
Yeah, I think so. Like, look, it's not for sure. Nothing's for sure. You're having to figure it out. For sure, he's a schizophrenic. When he's a cop, he doesn't know he's the killer. When he's the cop, he's actually looking for the killer. But then he switches his personality. He becomes his father, who is out there committing violence against prostitutes.
And even at the end, when he's going to kill Faye Dunaway, he basically puts the knife up to and just says, kill him.
Yeah.
He's like, kill my other half.
And there's also a whole other thing. There's also a whole other thing, because the father killed the mother. How dare anybody take this type of murder and try to sell products with it?
Yeah.
Commercialize it.
Commercializing it.
But just like in Dress to Kill, the character is a complete schizophrenic that does not know that two personalities are existing inside of one person.
It's a little movie-like, I guess, Hollywood movie-like, a little John Peters-like, to in the end have the kill me thing, as if you were flipping back and forth between the killer who will kill her and the guy who is willing to sacrifice himself and his... Actually,
that's them trying to hold on to the love story very, very desperately, all right up to the very end.
Too desperate.
Yeah. A mite too strong.
A mite too strong. Yeah, that's an Irish Spring reference.
I got it.
Okay, good.
I alone got it. I've got a review for Eyes of Laura Mars from the Movie Tone News, which was the film journal that the Seattle Film Society used to come out with. It's issues number 58 and 59 from August 14th, 1978. It's Richard T. Jameson, who's their editor. Give John Peters full credit. He's honest with his audience. At the beginning of A Star is Born, a voice called out advising, all you assholes out there, that the show wasn't about to get underway until everyone quieted down and John and Barbara proceeded to treat their public accordingly for the rest of the film. Not that a goodly portion of the public seemed to mind. Gee, Barbara called me an asshole. I have arrived. Peter's credit on Eyes of Laura Mars is preceded by a spacey model's muttering, gross. Yes, my dear, Eyes of Laura Mars is pretty gross. And in deference to memories of the good films director Irvin Kershner once made, I'd prefer to lay most of the blame at Peter's door. Clearly, we are not dealing with a movie here. This is a producer's package, a market research gratification kit ripe for a fast saturation merchandising. We need a classy careerist dame who takes fashion pictures. Get Dunaway. She's hot thanks to her network Oscar, and she looks as if she fits the milieu. The pornography of violence is a very heavy media trip right now. Get Helmut Lang to take the actual satin and bloodstained photos Laura Mars is supposed to have done. Looking for Mr. Goodbar was full of mirror shots. My kid brother's film professor says they have something to do with deranged psyches and like that. So I'll have a lot of those, too. Because get this. We've got a derangement for you. The fashion photographer has this very kinky thing going where she's plugged into the perception of this really weird killer. So that suddenly, zap, she's seeing through his eyes as he closes in on his next victim. Matter of fact, it's been happening for some time. And that's where her controversial, it turns me on, but is it art photo ideas have been coming from. And she's only just picked up on the condition because of now the guy selecting his victims from among her subjects. In her new coffee table book called Are You Ready for This? The Eyes of Laura Mars. And doing them in with an ice pick through the eyes. I tell you, Manny, it's relevant. It's now. And this is the beauty of it. You won't be able to tell the movie from the ad art, which will make everybody happy because they'll know they bought exactly what they set out to buy.
You know, he's being super, super crass.
Yeah.
And the things he's being crass about are some of the best things in the movie.
Yeah,
Helmut Lang's contribution to the movie is fantastic. Mm-hmm. That Faye Dunaway knows how to behave in front of the camera like a model, works in the favor of the reality of all of that works in the favor. In fact, the fact that it's a package that John Peters packages it, it might be one of the better things John Peters has done.
I agree with that.
Because it's what he knows.
No, he knew what he was doing on this. He made, he made I think he made exactly the movie he wanted to make.
He totally made exactly the movie. And he was powerful enough to bring in guys like, Helmut Newton.
The killer's motivation, forgive the archaic term, becomes a hilarious mishmash as one syndrome succeeds another with the speed of a shutter. Though even this might have been an intriguing idea if Kershner and the actor in the guilty role could have handled the quick change transitions from mood to mood within an integral mise-en-scène. Besides playing similarly fast and loose with the inherent ambiguity of the film medium, Eyes of Laura Mars earns our contempt for wasting the special qualities of Faye Dunaway, an actress who seems doomed to lurch into empty effect whenever she is handled with less than inspiration, as in Bonnie and Clyde, Chinatown, The Three Musketeers, and not much else. Network being the sole instance of her playing a part with mere solid professionalism. If Irvin Kershner hand is positively in evidence anywhere in this atrocity, it is probably in the marginal behavioral games played between Renee Augemois as Laura's agent and Michael Tucker as Bert, a hanger-on to a I'm not sure what purpose. Richard T. Jameson. So I have a Shock Cinema magazine from spring 2004, issue number 24, that has an interview with Irv Kershner. And so they're talking to him about his career. And then the interviewer goes, I wanted to ask you about Eyes of Laura Mars. I know John Carpenter wrote that one. Kershner, oh, I threw that script out. I was set up to do the picture and I read that script and I said, no. I just thought it was awful. And a week later, John Peters came to me and he said that they wanted me to make it. So I said, if you want me to do it, I'll have to make changes. And he said, okay, do it. So I hired a writer and we started rewriting the script until there was almost nothing left from the original. I didn't like the Carpenter script. It had a lot of violence and it had no meaning. It just wasn't mysterious. It was just full of violence. I put the fashion business in it. That wasn't there before, and it gave it a tone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Without that, it was nothing. So I tried to give it a form and also thought the actors were very good. But the hardest part was working on the script. The writer that I was working with had a heart attack. So he left the picture before we even started, and we had to get another writer, and we had to continue working on the script while we were shooting to get it right.
God, poor heart attack guy never got credit.
Yeah. We changed almost everything in the script. The only thing that they had in common was that they were about women who had visions. Nothing else remained. The dialogue, the characters are different. Everything's different. But he does make good pictures, John Carpenter. Different kinds of pictures than the ones I make. I'm much more interested in characterization.
Yeah, maybe you've heard of my film, Empire Strikes Back. I gotta say, I was kind of on Irvin Kershner's side until I heard that interview. I was a fucking dick.
Well, he didn't want to do a movie of a script he thought was trash.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, though, is if all of that's true, Carpenter was obviously, Giallo influenced. Mm-hmm. And Irving Kershner's like, no, it's a mystery. It's a this,
no,
it's a that.
No, wow, that's really and well said. There probably was much more Giallo. It would have been even more Giallo influence if they had done Carpenter's version.
And the influence, enough is still there just by osmosis as it transfers.
Okay, nevertheless, without having read John Carpenter's script, I have to be on Kershner's side because it's the whole fashion model aspect is the part that works.
This might require a little bit of CSI work on my part. I might have to dig out to
find John Carpenter's script for Eyes.
Yeah,
because there's no eyes. Eyes.
Yeah.
I have a Psychotronic magazine, issue number 14, and it has an interview with Brad Dourif in it. An occult mystery directed by Irv Kershner. He played fashion photographer Faye Dunaway's ex-con chauffeur. This is him talking. That was the first bad boy I played. He wasn't really wicked. He was just an ex-con. He was actually a sympathetic character. We spent 2 weeks rewriting it. It never really quite got rewritten right. There was a lot of tension on the set. I enjoyed her, Dunaway, a lot. I also enjoyed working with Tommy Lee Jones. I don't think the two of them enjoyed working with each other, though. It was just very unsure. Nobody was really quite sure of the material, and they were right. The material had problems. Those of us who weren't involved in all of the bad stuff were having a great time, actually. It's great to be in New York. I was young. I was surrounded by really gorgeous women. I stayed at the Hotel Navarro, which was kind of a really wild hotel. And by then I knew a lot of people in rock and roll, and people used to come into my hotel suite and play all night. God. I had a real party going.
God, I love Brad Dourif. That makes me love Brad Dourif even more.
That is so awesome.